90 days ago, I learned I shouldn't be allowed in pet stores, and that's because I can't ever leave that place without these. These are hornworms, and if you're wondering why they look kind of weird, it's because they're in the stage right before they transform into a creature with wings. You can see the very same day I brought them home, it happened. The first one went from sky blue to deep red, and then the second one, and that's when I knew I had to be prepared because soon they would rearrange their bodies and emerge as an adult. So I got a 10-gallon tank, added a snake plant, some egg cartons, climbing sticks, and a net. I took the hornworm pupas into my hands. It was so cool to see them wiggle inside their red casing, and I weaved them through a string. They have these circular parts at the top of their cocoon that seemed perfect for hanging. Plus, last time I didn't hang them and you guys told me I should so that we could mimic the way they hatch in nature. And I thought that was a great idea. So I weaved the string through the little holes, and then I took that string where they hung and attached it to the netting so that they could hatch perfectly. And once I was done, you could immediately see them start to wiggle in their cocoons. It felt like a confirmation that they liked the new hatching spot. And soon, their new place of hatching looked a little something like this. So I got the time lapse rolling and the waiting game inevitably begun. Over the next 7 days, their little bums wiggled around and around like crazy, and I soon started to notice the color of the cocoon start to get a lot darker and deeper red, almost like a purpley violet color. So it was in that moment that I knew it wouldn't be too much longer before they hatched. As they wiggled away, I thought about how cool it was that these creatures passed the tiny caterpillar stage, shed their skin 5 times, broke out of their bluey green skin, and then morphed into a purpley reddish cocoon. But really, it was the next step that had me the most excited, because I knew we were about to witness something completely magical. If this ain't the definition of magic, then I really don't know what is. And remember when I told you I knew it wouldn't be long before they hatched? Well, on day 14, something crazy happened. One of the cocoons split open and an adult winged being emerged. It really all happens in the blink of an eye, so you can imagine me just sitting there for hours waiting for them to hatch with cameras at every angle, and these little ones must have been on the same hatching schedule because that very same day, I sat there and witnessed the second hornworm hatch into a hawk moth. It took about 30 minutes for the moth to fully emerge, and I watched as the creature slowly pushed its head out of the red casing like it was waking up from a long nap. Bit by bit, it wiggled its way out, slowly sliding its soft, wet body into the world. The netting was supposed to help the little one by giving it something to latch onto and climb up on, but I guess the way the cocoon was positioned, it didn't have enough time to grab onto the netting, so it fell. But immediately, it found its way back up to the netting and started crawling its way up to find a safe spot to hang. It made its way over to my snake plant that I put in their enclosure. That particular plant has a pretty good grip for them to safely grab onto and hang without falling. And when it emerges, you can see how small the wings look. They need time to grow their wings because when they emerge, they're crumpled and wet. And you know what? I thought the hatching process was cool until I saw the little one grow its wings. It takes about 2 hours for the wings to fully grow. And that's because not only were they squished up tight inside that tiny space for a long time, but their body is also full of a special liquid that they soon begin to pump inside of their wings to help them stretch out. Over the next couple hours, I watched as their crumpled wings started to slowly unfold and grow bigger, and as it hung there very still, their wings began to harden so it could actually fly. Now I'm sure you can see why I just can't resist bringing home little miracles like these, because it's so beautiful to watch them break open the barrier of their pupa and enter life as a winged being. And honestly, it's crazy to think that just a few weeks ago, these were weird-looking worms I brought home from the pet store. But at this point, I was just excited that we had 2, because now I was hoping they would mate and lay eggs so I could continue the life cycle and grow their offspring. Once their wings were fully grown, I finally took the moths in my hands and started basically becoming friends with them. After all, I was now a mother, and they stayed on my hands for what felt like hours. I couldn't stop staring at their amazing bodies. They had such beautiful earthy colors, deep browns and rusty reds, and a splash of creamy tan near the edges. They were a little fuzzy and striped, kind of like a raccoon tail, and the little antenna curled like butterflies. That's their mouth part that they use to feed on things like nectar. And they looked so fragile, but they were also so friendly. They don't bite, and there was something really ancient and magical about this whole experience, like holding little forest dragons on my hand for the first time. What's sad is that they only live for about 10 days after hatching, which is where they usually find a mate and lay eggs and continue the life cycle, which is what I really wanted to do. And if you're wondering at this point why I wasn't releasing them into nature like we did with the painted lady butterflies, it's because you can't release hornworms into the wild because they are an invasive species. They're not bad bugs, but they eat a lot. In nature, you usually find them chowing down on your tomato or tobacco plants, and they can demolish an entire plant in just a few hours. So if you let them go outside, they might munch through gardens and farms. They can cause big problems for other plants and farmers, and that's why you usually only see these available for purchase for other animals to eat, like lizards. And because they're not always native to the area, they don't have natural predators to keep their numbers small, so it's a lot safer to keep them inside and not release them into the wild. So doing this was just about my own desire to learn more about the species that I am unfamiliar with and hopefully educate others on the beauty that surrounds their life cycle. And soon, the inevitable moment came where about 12 days passed and the life cycle of our hawk moths ended. And as sad as I was to have to say goodbye, I really wanted to pin them so I could preserve them and keep them forever. But the problem was that I didn't know the first thing about pinning hawk moths. I wasn't sure if I needed to rehydrate it, but all I knew was that I had these pins, so I figured that I would try. And I knew that in order to pin hornworms, you have to add a pin right in the middle of their body so that they can get secured to whatever base you have. But I noticed that the body was really hard and brittle, and so I couldn't really move the wings at all, and I didn't want to rip any of their little body parts. So I figured instead of pinning these, maybe I'll just frame them for now so we can keep them forever in the hatching collection. So the last thing I did was go to the tank and search for eggs. And since I have yet to find any under the plant leaves, which is where they usually lay their eggs, I am really fighting the urge not to run back to the pet store unsupervised because y'all know I will probably come home with a bunch of worms ready to hatch. Anyone want to chaperone me?